Alrighty boys, so today's video is going to be on looking over a supposedly running snowmobile. Used snowmobile.
90s snowmobile, right?
Our example is going to be a 91 Indy Trail.
91, 92?
Yeah, 488 fan. This is going to go for, any snowmobile really. Yeah, the new ones are fuel injected, which you might have to look for like different things, but this is going to be obviously just the basics, looking at cosmetic issues, suspension, skis, track, engine, clutches, starting them, what to check when they're running, just all that good stuff. So first thing we're going to cover, I guess we'll start in the front with skis and carbides. Basically, on a lot of Indies and Skidoos, the freaking steering wants to seize up all the time, so you always want to make sure steering's nice and free, and then you want to check for excessive play in it. So as you can see, that's not moving the handlebar at all, where this one...
There's a lot of play in that right ski.
Which I can see that the pinch bolt here probably could be tightened, and it's probably, yeah. Well, actually, it's in the bottom. If you can get all this grass, obviously the guy might not have been riding it in the swamp with the marsh grass hooked to it. There's play guys in the bottom here. The hole is elongated where the bolt goes through.
In that bottom.
So this thing's just gonna dance around on you underneath. This one's got like 4-inch carbides on it. I don't know if you can see that. Pick that up at all?
Yes, sir.
So the carbide is basically the sharp part right there. This is the carbide runner.
Right.
Older sleds have just runners on them.
Yep.
Newer stuff, they use carbide. You can get 6-inch, 4-inch, up to 14-inch. They can make dualies, singles. If they say they put new carbides on it, you're gonna know, because that's gonna be nice and sharp, and it won't be flattened off. What ruins carbides is road riding.
When you cross over roads, stuff like that.
Aggressive dirt riding and stuff that's not snow.
Low volumes of snow.
Exactly. Mainly it's from trail riding on roads.
Right.
When there's lack of snow and dirt and stuff like that, it wears the heck out of them. And you'll notice, because they won't steer with the crap, it'll just push and slide.
Oh yeah.
Obviously you're gonna check both sides for carbide to make sure they're a little bit on there. Otherwise, if there isn't, selling point,
Yeah. Suspension too, you can kind of, when you lift up the ski and let it down,
you'll
you'll see if there's any travel. This is an IFS sled. Obviously older leaf spring sleds will not have as much travel typically.
Yep. This is a 2-up, so it's got that backrest and this lovely seat.
Not too bad a shape, one rip.
Yeah,
right
obviously
there,
look at cosmetics. There's no windshield in this sled. This sled would come with a windshield if it was all original. And then always look and see if it has the VIN number and the year. You can always check that. Polarises are going to be down here on like a manufacturer. And then if you're not sure, you can always go online and look that stuff up. Front end wise, other than that, you can just make sure that it's not too much play. You could take the hood, pull that open. The old factory 1 hood strap. Oh, and the factory no hood cable. Usually guys are going to have a hood cable. So that one's just going to get folded down like that.
And if you have one like us, then the hood cable is not attached.
Exactly. Make sure you look at the wiring, just give it a glance.
Right.
If it has electric start, if it has a battery in it.
Especially if they say, everything works, or, something doesn't work, you can kind of see and narrow it down.
Exactly.
If it looks like a mouse has been in there.
This is a fan-cooled engine. There's liquid-cooled, fan-cooled, and free-air engines that don't use. This just has a fan kind of blowing air across the fins. Take a look at the exhaust pipe, guys. You'll see holes, dents, sections where it looks rough.
Typically on these older sleds, they'll even, by the manifold there.
See them blow out a lot where the welds are.
Yep.
Look at the engine. Look how oily it is where the header pipe mounts to the engine. A lot of times the bolts come loose or the exhaust gaskets blow apart, and it'll just be covered in nasty, sooty stuff on the exhaust.
Right.
And it'll kind of leak down the engine. It'll look like it's got some leaks. Usually it's the exhaust gaskets and like excess oil and stuff puking its way out.
Right.
This one here, you can see the lid of the airbox is missing. Many sleds are going to have a complete airbox, so you can't exactly tell the condition of there's usually foam inside of that, guys. And the foam is designed to keep all the nasty stuff out. But a lot of times, if they've been sitting a while, the foam will get sucked in, and it sucks itself in. So that's always a great thing.
That's always
to
a
have.
great thing too, guys.
Had it happen to me a couple times.
Yeah, recently too.
Yeah. Make sure the throttle pulls nice and easy.
No hang-ups, nothing like that.
Stuff like that. Make sure the choke operates smoothly. Cables. Check the brakes. This one here needs to be bled. It's got a lot of play in the lever.
Clutch guard you can pull up and.
Yeah, exactly. So in Polaris's, they got just a typical clutch guard. Can't exactly get up. Take that up. This is the primary clutch. This is the secondary clutch. Always make sure you get an extra belt. You know, that's extra money right there. Usually the extra belts are tucked up in there,
or sometimes
or on the belt
side.
cover.
Yeah.
Look at the belt. You'll see if it's super cracked and nasty, and if it's really, really thin, that tells you it's pretty worn out.
Yeah.
And if it takes a lot of RPM to get her going, usually that's a worn belt thing.
Unless it's clutched.
Look at the clutch too, and look at, oh, this thing's got a little bit of compression. You can always give it a hand compression test too this way, guys, just turning it over. Right. Look at any of the areas where the clutch may be busted. A lot of times these here sections will crack on these Polaris P85s.
You can even give a little lift to see if the motor mounts
and then, yeah, you give it a check. Just so you can tell the clutch is a little, that pivot bushing on the top cover has got some play in it.
Right.
I can feel that. It's brass.
I mean, secondary.
This is an electric start option. You can see the ring gear and the starter. Secondary, take a pick up on that. Make sure that jack shaft bearing isn't all womped out. And then if you don't see anything too rough like that, that's usually a good sign. You can't exactly see down in there.
You can spring the secondary, you know, you can loosen the sheet.
Yeah, you can take the belt off and inspect it.
Right.
Depending on how picky you want to get with it. You know, if you're buying a $100 snowmobile, who cares? But
right.
If you're buying something, you know, a couple $100, $1,000, if you're buying something like $3,000, you're gonna, the more money you're spending, the
more things you want to check. And we've kind of over the years gone through stuff, and we kind of know what we got hosed on and kind of what to look for. So
yeah. Haven't got burnt too many times.
Yeah, no, we haven't gotten burned too many times so far. So
trying with the track, you're looking at to see if there's lugs chewed off, cracks, tear spots. If it's got studs, how many studs are ripped out? You know, if there's like really big holes where the stud is ripped out. Bogey wheels, you can see sometimes the rear ones you can't really check because the track's tight. The center ones sometimes you can spin them and hear them. Or if they're really bad, this one here in the center, I'm not going to get down there now.
This one here, the center
ones are terrible. They're really bad.
Yeah.
Very inexpensive repair, but still, you know, something to look out for if you're ready to hit the trails with it.
And Hyfax, check Hyfax.
Yeah, Hyfax is basically the slides on the bottom of the skid rail. And there's like a wear limit. You can kind of see like the halfway point in the slide. If it's got about that much or more, you know, that's a good sign. Once again, they're, you know, $30-$40 a set.
Right.
Maybe a half hour to take them on and off if you get lucky.
Yeah, falls well.
But other than that, that's the basics. I mean, you have anything else to add? Just making sure cosmetically, like the tie rod links aren't bent.
Right.
I've seen a lot of indies. The trailing arm will be busted.
Yep.
Spindles are always froze. You know, make sure it turns pretty easy. Carbides. Make sure the gas cap, if it's a running sled and they say it runs, make sure you smell the gas.
If it's varnished, you'll know right away. It won't smell.
And then run it, guys. Make sure you start it always, and then
check if it's cold.
Check the pipe. Yes, put your hand on the pipe.
And if not, check the pipe. Put it by the motor. You know, grab like by the case, because that's usually where the heat stays there.
10 minutes before you got there. If you touch the pipe or the engine and it's warm, you can say, "Hey, why were you just running this?"
Right.
Maybe it's got a problem starting or something. They're trying to hide it on you. So
some low compression.
If it's cold and it starts good, that's usually a good sign.
I mean, you can check to see if there's excessive like bowing in the running boards.
Yep.
That's a sign that it's probably been jumped.
Yep. Check the condition of the recoil rope too.
Yep.
This rope's pretty bad. It's getting kind of nasty and old and oily and stuff like that. Yeah, they'll probably last a long time, but it's another thing if you snap it. Right. Thankfully, this has an electric start option, so you can put a battery in.
I mean, you can just kind of do like a pliableness check of like the fuel lines and stuff.
Oh yeah, that too.
You know, just to make sure if it's hard as a rock, then
yeah, they haven't been touched since new or something like that.
You know, just kind of make sure the oil bottle's got oil in it.
Smell, yeah, just give it, you know, all the 5 senses.
Oh yeah.
Smell, taste.
Yeah.
Taste the gas. But yeah, if it starts and runs, What your main thing you want to do is check for vacuum leaks.
Yep.
Especially if the guy says, oh, it has a sporadic idle or idles high when it's cold. Chances are you got a leak of air somewhere. Typically it's crank seals or intake boots.
Yep, intake boots, right where the carbs go.
And sadly you can't really check the flywheel side crank seal. So if you have some goofy problems, you can't rule it out, you know. Basically you take something flammable, like brake clean, starting spray, spray it around the boots where the carbs connect on the front of the carbs.
Right, not the back, obviously.
And then you pull the clutch cover up while it's running, spray behind the clutch, the primary, right on the crank seal. If you notice any RPM rise, you're sucking air.
Yep.
And you're going to need a hole, tear the bottom end apart and reseal it. There's a 2-hour job, 3-hour job.
And if you're not mechanically inclined, that's
$500 job or more at a dealership or something.
A lot of money, so.
So usually when they're idling high and doing weird stuff, if you spray, you'll find something.
Right.
Make sure spark plug caps are nice, not all dry rotted. See if the spark plugs are like rusty looking, like they had never changed them or anything.
Right. If you bring a 13, 16 or whatever to take the plugs.
It's always a good practice to check the compression on the engine too before you start it cold.
Yeah. Especially if it's high miles too.
Yep.
Depending on how many miles are on the sled.
And then take like a flashlight and just visually look in the spark plug hole at the piston. Like, hey, is it starting to like erode over there and break apart? Like, is it going to grenade on you? Also,
another thing to check is the speedometer works. If the speedometer works, that's a good sign that your jack shaft bearings and chain
the drive
case,
shaft and all that stuff works.
Like all that stuff's copacetic because what is it?
It's like a little stub shaft that breaks off on the Cats and the Polarises, I think. When the Speedo stops working, chances are you got a malfunction, either maybe a cable, but it's usually the bearing took out the little reader of the cable and you'll hear the noise.
Yeah, they'll growl pretty decent.
Typical compression, if you're above 100, you're probably okay. If you're below 100, if you're below 75, you got some issues. You'll know if it has a hole in the piston, you'll probably have none.
120 is about the ideal.
120. These old fan coolers don't really have much. The newer stuff probably 140. We had that 488 fan just like this with a hole in the piston. It probably shows 0 on the gauge. And you can look, if you have a flashlight, you'll see that hole in the piston.
Yep.
Typically that's a lean condition. Crank seal on that side's probably blown out.
Or you'll see, detonation of the plug or some meltation.
Yeah. And then all the manufacturers and makes are pretty similar. Liquid cooled, you're gonna want to check like hoses coming from the water pump, any coolant leaks. Poke your head up underneath. There's going to be heat exchangers on the tunnel. Especially if they have a studded track. And they say it's been leaking coolant or they smell coolant or stuff like that. It could have thrown a stud through the heat exchanger.
Right.
Kind of a shitty job because you might have to pull the track out, and that's hours of time and money. Liquid cooling is, you have to look at a little more things, and you got to be careful and let them warm up a little bit so you don't cold stick them.
Also check chain case fluid. Because we looked at a Mach 1, and it was bout mud.
Yeah, so basically a chain case is just over here, or a drop case. And I don't know if these Polarises have a pull stick or not. Some has a plug. I'm not sure. Skidoo's got like a plug where you pull it out. It's got a little grommet on it.
Right.
Cats might have the same thing. And it's just, this is an older style Polaris, so they might just have a screw plug that you fill up to that line.
You fill it to that line and then you like bleed.
And there's manual chain tensioners on that side. Some have automatic spring-loaded chain tensioners and chain guides. And you'll hear the chain if it's loose. We got one in the shop here that probably blew the tensioner apart. It sounds terrible. Other than that, this is on a running snowmobile, guys. I'm going to make another video on a non-running snowmobile and kind of what to check. But when you fire it up, you're just checking to make sure we can start this one up too. This one obviously doesn't run amazing. I mean, this was like a $20 barn find. As I get my Crocs on here, 4-wheel drive for this job. Hood down. Be very careful, guys, with Indy hoods, Arctic Cat hoods. I mean, pretty much any of the hoods. Indies especially, they fit kind of funky.
Yep.
Get them in when they're running, you want to check all the functions, the lights, stuff like that. About 1800, which is a good idle speed for one of these. If it's rising and it's falling and you're spraying and you see it rise, that's a bad thing. And you're going to check the lights and all that stuff. And you see one of the gauges. This is about 2400, which is pretty low. We got a
Somewhere 3
performance
to
sled.
4 is generally a safe bet.
Check your lights, make sure you squeeze in. You got brake light, tail light, especially if you're gonna trail ride it.
Right.
Yeah, just give it a check. Always make sure you check the bars.
Left and right. No throttle cable pinches. That'll make it rev.
Yep.
Then you'll be going around a corner and you'll go wide open and you'll flip right over. But and if it doesn't have a VIN number, guys, if there's stickers on it when it's previously registered,
Yeah,
you can go off of that to register.
It's a good thing to have a bill of sale at least, or if registration card from Wisconsin,
Right.
where we're from, that's what you usually get.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that's the basics. You guys can leave comments if you have questions on other things, but
Or if you have other stuff to add, feel
you'll probably
free.
make like another 10 minutes of just little things, but that's, you
Right.
just look it over front to back, check all that stuff out.
Just kind of stuff to not get
Use your
holes.
eyes, bring a flashlight. Don't try to do it in the dark. You can hide anything in the dark. We exchanged some 40-year-old propane tanks last night at the gas station in the dark. I don't think anybody would have want to took those home.
Right.
So we did that. But yeah, it's always a bad thing to do it in the dark. Just, you know, that sounds bad, but but yeah, bring a flashlight, bring a buddy.
Oh yeah.
If you're not like a power sports mechanic like most of us are, find somebody that is, or, you know, do your research online, like, hey, what's common problems on this
Yep.
Skidoo Rev 600? What should I look for? Should I look for this, that, whatever?
Right.
But yeah, if you allow you to test drive it, obviously test drive it around. Listen for noise, vibration. Does something smell like it's burning? Is it
Right.
smoking excessively? Just
Load it
all
up.
that stuff. But yeah, the next video we're gonna do is a non-running snowmobile, and we'll find something else for that, and just show you the basics on all that stuff. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure you smash the like button. I'm trying to do these snowmobile videos to kind of inform all you new guys, anybody that's looking to buy a snowmobile. I know winter season's here, so now's the time to buy those clapped out $500 beaters and send them.
Yeah. And for all the people that might comment and say we're idiots, we are no self-proclaimed experts. We just know a thing or two
Yeah,
from
we're just-
experience, from
Yeah.
owning probably
Buying 40, 50
owning
sleds,
probably
you know?
50 to 75 sleds in our young time already.
Right, in the last 3 years here.
So-
You see a lot of junk, and you know what junk is. you
Yep.
know? And if you guys are looking for a sled and you want an opinion, I'll give you my 2 cents on it. You know, I probably know about it. Unless it's like a brand new off the showroom floor, then I probably couldn't help you.
Yeah. But
it's anything-
anything pre-2000,
Pre-2000,
we're really
I got
good.
you covered. I'm pretty good about that.
Even early 2000s, not too bad, but
If you're looking for
pre-2000.
snowmobiles, I got a group on Facebook. You can leave a comment down below. Got a couple thousand people in there. You can always look for old sleds on there too. So,
Yeah.
alrighty. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you have questions, leave them in the comments.